Well, at a recent event where Disney was showcasing some of their current stuff and new stuff, it was noted by quite a few people that Doctor who the BBC and Disney are co-funding, didn't have much of a spot on their kind of showcase show that they were doing. It had a very small segment in it. Now, of course, I can understand the reason for that. If they're showcasing stuff made on Disney Plus, then they're not necessarily going to give the same impetus to something they're only co-funding with the BBC. So I can understand why it didn't have a front and centre attention. However, there are people who are saying that this is a sign that Disney are very upset with the BBC and are upset with the viewing figures, because let's face it, the viewing figures are lowest than they've ever been, even with Jodie Whittaker. But then Doctor Who has been hemorrhaging viewers for a long time now, even before Jodie Whittaker, so it's not too surprising that this has happened. I am a bit surprised with the way that Ncuti Gatwa and Russell T Davies took the show this season, but obviously with the influence of Disney, and I think they do have an influence there, then you can understand why they have introduced certain elements and why they've gone for a more fantasy based thing to give them a bit more of a range and to give them a bit more artistic license here and there. However, it hasn't worked out, to be honest. It's been a terrible series, and you have to say that lands at Russell T Davies' door. The BBC are trying to spin the figures to make it look like it's good, but it really isn't. And there are people saying that after season 2 there's not going to be any more funding from Disney. They think that the deal between BBC and Disney is hanging by a thread at the moment because they're not happy with the viewing figures. But what were they going to expect? I mean, okay, the BBC wanted Disney to come in because they could give them much better distribution, give them a huge chunk of money, but at the end of the day, without changing drastically the format of the show to something that was more akin to what the show used to be when all the viewers were watching it, what was going to happen? Yes, they were trying to attract a younger audience, but that didn't really work. And at the end of the day, what you've got now is something that isn't really attracting anybody. So I'm not surprised that Disney are a little bit concerned about this, and I don't think they're going to be funding a third series. In fact, I think if they hadn't already put the funding in place for a second series, they probably wouldn't have funded that either. I mean, look at their track record. The Acolyte hasn't done very well. It looks like that's going to be cancelled for season 2. She-Hulk didn't do very well. That was cancelled for season 2. So I can imagine that they wouldn't have greenlit a second season if they hadn't already funded it. So I don't think they're going to greenlight a third series unless something dramatic happens, which I don't think will happen. Russell T Davies has said that even if the Disney pull the funding, the BBC can still fund the show and they will still be able to make it, but it's going to be drastically reduced. I mean, the whole size of the show, the special effects, everything's going to have to be reduced to fit in with the BBC budget. And to be honest, I'm not entirely sure the BBC would be pleased to self-fund the show anymore. I think that they would probably, if season 2 doesn't get any, if there's no more funding after season 2, I can foresee that the BBC might decide to pull the plug on Doctor Who for at least for a little while, or have it go back to what it was before, where you'd get like a couple of episodes a year at the most. I reckon that's how it's going to go if the Disney don't come up with any more funding, which to be honest with you, I can't see them doing at all. But what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that Disney will continue funding the Doctor Who? Do you think they should continue funding Doctor Who? And also, do you think that Disney were right not to really showcase Doctor Who at their event, and that basically they were just trying to showcase their own products? Let me know down in the comment section what you think, and don't forget to subscribe for more TV news.